Hello everyone, my name is James from Moments Live. Finding wedding photography locations is very important. There are lots of opportunities for us to have allocate limited time between the ceremony and receptions and locations. And we need to pick 1 or 2 wedding photos in maximum. So therefore, I am here to provide you some clear guidelines to Melbourne brides and grooms on how to navigate the process of finding the right wedding photo locations. First questions to ask is when is the best location shooting would be and what is the suitable time for our wedding location photos. In typical wedding scenarios, couples often have their wedding ceremony in the afternoon, with the reception starting at 6 p.m. This allocates couples to our photo sections at the location between the 2 events. However, if your wedding location is scheduled for a later time and immediately followed by the receptions, it is advised to consider shifting your wedding location sections to an earlier time before the ceremony takes place. A typical time for wedding photo locations between the wedding ceremony and receptions is 1 to 4 hours. No matter how much time we have for wedding location photos, avoid spending hours traveling is a smart choice. My suggestion is to choose your wedding photo location within 30 minutes driving from your wedding ceremony and reception venues. The second question is to ask how many wedding photos locations should we take photos at. The number of wedding photo locations is considered depends on the time available during your ceremony and the receptions, and the durable your wedding photographers plan and each locations. Generally, it is sufficient to choose 1 or 2 wedding photo locations to create distinctive backdrops. In Melbourne, most wedding couples choose 1 hour for their wedding photo locations. So if your wedding ceremony concludes earlier, you may have the opportunity to visit multiple photo locations. From a Melbourne wedding photographer experience, for grand weddings, the bride often plan to have multiple photo locations. I would suggest to allow 13 to 16 minutes for each photo locations. Some wedding photos location can be allocated with less time. For example, Albert Park, Parliament House, and Hazelink, because these photo locations offer similar photo opportunities and less walk distance. On the other hand, some wedding photo locations recommendations need to allow more time to take photos. For example, the Wellington Botanic Garden, Carlton Garden, Fitzroy Gardens, because they have more time to they need more time to walk and also to take photos in different spots. Lastly, it's important to allocate a time for traveling because it is difficult to have a parking spot there. The third question is where should we take the wedding photos? In summary, the choice of wedding photos locations depends on your preference, and also there are lots of opportunities and options for wedding photo locations in Melbourne. As a general guidelines, select a wedding photo location that can suit your style. For example, if you are planning a grand and classic wedding, the Parliament House can provide a timeless backdrop for your photos. If you prefer a more candid, relaxed atmosphere, consider of the garden weddings photo locations. They can offer natural greeny backdrops. If you have the flexibilities to visit different locations, choose 1 architecture backdrops and also 1 garden locations can provide a diversified range of settings for your wedding photos. Ultimately, the decision should be based on your personal preference and the design style for your wedding photos. Take the time to explore different options and select 1 or 2 locations for your weddings would be a perfect choice. Here are some of the most popular photo locations for your reference. The suggested wedding photo location provided here is within metropolitan Melbourne and typically within a 50 km around Melbourne cities. And that would be a good choice for you to minimize the travel time and also ensure a smooth wedding days. And if you are wanting a minimalistic and modern and classic theme, then an elegant backdrop would fit your wedding timeline. So in addition to those wedding locations, here are the top 5 photo locations for recommendations. For a modern and classic weddings, I would suggest Parliament House, La Mansions, Chanel store in Melbourne City, Royal Exhibition Building, and also the Victoria Barracks. And some brides and grooms desire to have a natural and more water scenario for wedding photos locations. Here is the top 5 I would suggest. One is Carlton Gardens, Fitzroy Gardens, Royal Botanic Gardens, St Kilda Botanic Gardens, and also the William Towns Botanic Gardens. But if you are looking for a beach wedding photography, I will suggest you the Prince Pier at Port Melbourne, Lagoon Pier at Port Melbourne, the Jem Pier and Ferguson Street Pier at Williamstown, and also the Brighton Beach Bath buses. If you want a more academic feelings, then I would suggest you to go to the University of Melbourne or the RMIT Design Hub. And when the historical feelings matters, then I would suggest you to go to the Victoria Barrack and also the Royal Exhibition Centre, Parliament House, Fitzroy Townhouse, South Melbourne Townhouse. And if you're more a friend of arts and street photography, then I would suggest you to go to National Gallery Victoria, Luna Park. That would be the good choice for you to take photos. But if you love the Melbourne City View, then I would suggest you to go to the St. English Church backdrop, Albert Lake, South Bank Parade, and also if you want some dark wedding photos, then I would suggest you to go to the South Bank Parade and the nearby beach, and also the Victoria Harbour Parade at Dockland. If you have cars to take photos, then I would suggest you to go to Fitzroy Townhouse and also the Australian Centre for Contemporary Arts. And for your information, there are some locations actually requires permits to take photos. For example, the Victoria Barracks, which requires to get the permits but with low cost. And also the Labassa Mansions, and also the Royal Botanic Gardens, and the Space Market Melbourne cities. These are the places you need to get the permit in advance, otherwise it may also affect your wedding plan on that day. Also, in Melbourne, weather is unpredictable, so therefore you should have a backup plan for your wedding photos. So you will have to look for wedding photos that in Melbourne that either can provide indoor locations or offer a shelter for you to take photos. So luckily, there are plenty of options. For example, the Space Market, which provide indoor wedding photo locations, Parliament House offers roofing and shelters, South Melbourne Town Hall, which offers roofing and shelters, and also the Fitzroy Town Hall also offers roofing and shelters. And also you can also go to the St Kilda Botanic Gardens, which there has a gazebo and greenhouse and good for indoor photos. After introduce lots of wedding photo locations, I believe it is also very important to let you know that we do not recommend some of the wedding locations to take photos. The first one to be careful is the Shame of Rebellion. This place is for sure beautiful and has lots of features for creating wonderful wedding photos. However, this place is built for recall and show respect for Australian soldiers, so it is not quite suitable for wedding photos. And also the security there show up quite often and will ask you to leave when you're wearing a wedding dress. The second thing to be mentioned is the windy beach. We know that we love beach in Melbourne, but we also know that there can be quite windy in winter, so it will ruin the brides and bridesmaids' hair and makeup. So I don't think that's a good choice for wedding photos. So after all the locations introduced above, I think it is pretty much for today. I hope that this video can help you know more about how to plan a wedding in Melbourne. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. We are Moments to Life, and I am James. See you next video. Bye bye.